In the game of life, the bold are guided by two unapologetic groups: the unmuters who speak their truth, and the rebels who live life on their own terms. These are their stories. And we are live, or at least in the recording. Welcome to the Unmuted Podcast, episode 7, where I have conversations with amazing people who share their inspirational stories around feeling muted in their life and the steps they've taken to become unmuted and whatever that means to them. So today I have a very special guest and a very new friend who I absolutely love, my friend Karen Sybil. So Karen, thank you for being here with me today.
Thank you so much, Priya. I really appreciate the opportunity, and I just love what you're doing.
Thank you. And you get a sound effect for being here. Hold on a second.
Uh-huh.
There.
I love that.
This is a plug for Ecamm. So yeah.
Mhm.
Ecamm Live. So Karen, where are you located in this world?
I'm in Toronto.
Awesome. Awesome. That's very cool. Is that where you're originally from?
Yes.
Cool. Yeah.
Originally, I'm from India, but I've lived in Toronto since I was a baby.
No way. You're Indian?
Yeah.
I didn't know this. Look at this. We get to know each other. Look at what happens when
I
you
thought you knew that.
unmute. Huh?
Oh, I thought you knew that.
No. I mean, and I think this is the beauty of this because when we have these conversations and then in the community that we're in, we're
Uh-huh.
not looking at ethnicity, we're not looking at gender, we don't even have those conversations. So I just
Uh-huh.
found out something and that just makes me even more connected to you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So, yeah, like I said, thank you for being on this podcast. And we've been having private conversations. We follow each other on social media, and the whole concept of being muted and unmuting resonates with you.
Mhm.
Would you say so?
Oh my gosh, completely.
Okay, please.
Completely.
You have the floor. Tell me a little bit about yourself,
Mm.
this goes where I mean it could go in any direction, but just to guide us, at
Yeah.
what age do you feel like you were first muted? Or was there a specific moment where
Yeah.
you felt
It's
that?
super interesting. And I was thinking about what I was going to share in this conversation. I think I really became unmuted after my father passed away last year. So I'm in my mid 50s now. And I've been muted pretty much since I was a teenager. And, I was raised in a small family. I have a younger sister. I have a mother that went through a lot of trauma when she was growing up. And she was a very insecure person. And her way of getting around her insecurity was to control her kids. So, me being, I guess, the black sheep in the family, always outspoken. Since I was a kid, I would say the truth. And sometimes it wasn't well accepted or appreciated, and I was shut down. So I learned at a very young age, probably around the age of 12, to keep my mouth shut. And it became a survival method for me. And I gained weight as a kid. I never connected the dots. But when you're shut down and you're under stress, your cortisol goes out of whack and you put on weight the belly fat as a kid. I was a little chunky, never really explained how that wasn't able to go away my entire life because I was muted. And then that got progressively worse. So coming from an Indian culture, traditional upbringing, my parents were new immigrants in Canada. They believed in arranged marriages. I had been engaged 2 times, and my mother didn't have control over the relationship, so they fell apart. And as this kid, I'm thinking, man, the only way I'm ever going to get out of this house is to get married. I didn't really have any other options. Going to university, it was okay, but hey, you're a girl, you're Indian, you're supposed to be married off when you're 19. So my mother had brought a lot of the old school ideas to Canada, which really weren't applicable for the environment in which you're raised here, second generation. Finally, when I did get married to my husband, that was a whole other story. I've been married now 31 years, but she had to micromanage that relationship. Never gave us any freedom. Micromanaged the birth of my two kids. She controlled every aspect of my life. She criticized me constantly, criticized my husband, criticized my kids, alienated my kids from me. And that's a whole other story. But it's been a lot in terms of realizing what she did to me all these years. She eroded my self confidence. And the harder I tried, the fiercer it got from her, that she tried to tear me down with a vengeance. And then finally, when my father passed away last year, like the knives came out for me as the scapegoated child. My sister is now a clone of my mother. So I've got times two now. And I
Mm.
had to walk away. And the minute I made that decision to walk away at Christmas last year, I found my voice. I literally found my voice when I went no contact. And that was the hardest decision I've ever had to make in my life. And I made it because I was pushed by my family doctor. My health was getting affected. I was having heart palpitations trying to cope with my mother and my sister. My mother got diagnosed with a terminal illness right after my dad passed away. And she became really ugly and really mean to the point that my health got affected and I couldn't take care of her.
Mm.
I started having fainting spells. I was having chest pains, heart palpitations. My hair began falling out in clumps, massive clumps. I
Oh my
couldn't
gosh,
sleep.
Karen.
Yeah, it was horrible the year I went through. I had hives all over my body. It was just awful. And she didn't want to hear it. She just would say to me, "Well, if you're not feeling well, that's not my problem." That's what she would say to me. And I was dismissed my entire life. But it got even worse when my dad passed. And my sister just ramped it up. And then she got abusive. No matter how much I tried to help my mom, she started swearing at me. She started having rage fits at me. And my doctor said to me one day, "You're going to have to make a decision because I see two choices facing you. Either you're going to develop cancer or you're going to have a heart attack just like your dad. Which one do you want to pick?" When he put it to
Wow.
me that way, and I tried to even cushion it with my mom that, hey, I need some time for myself, blah, blah, blah. Didn't matter. It didn't matter at all. I have very few relatives left in my family. I've had to deal with 7 family members passing away in 4 years. And that in
Ah,
itself, I haven't had a chance to fully grieve the passing of my father. And I lost an uncle about 10 days ago on my father's side. So I literally have no more relatives on my father's side except for a couple of cousins. And my mother's been super harsh about everything. And as soon as my dad died, she said to me, "You have nothing to do with your father's side of the family." I said, "Excuse me? I have 3 cousins left. That's all I have. I'm going to be in touch with them. And for God's sakes, I'm in my 50s now. I can make that decision for myself." But,
wow.
you know, so, when I saw what you were doing with Unmute with Priya, I'm like, this resonated with me on so many levels. Also because I have a daughter named Priya. She's 27.
Are you
I'm
kidding?
estranged. Yeah, I'm not. I'm estranged from her right now just because of all the damage my mother did, and it's been generational.
Yeah.
And so my daughter has held that against me for wanting to help my mom all these years and trying to help her after my dad passed away. And my daughter, she's a smart girl. Priyas are always super smart. And she said to me, "Mom, you don't see what she's doing to you. You don't see it. She's killing who you are." And so my daughter, totally repulsed by everything, she walked away. She just completely walked away. She showed up at the funeral for my dad, but that was it. She's like, "Until you fix this shit, Mom, pardon my French,
It's
until you
okay.
fix this, I'm not talking to you. You need to fix what's going on." And so every day I'm discovering new things about myself, things I never thought I had the confidence to do because I was called stupid. I was called stupid in public repeatedly. And and to anyone that would listen, that I was a bad daughter because I always had a different opinion and a different way of seeing the world. I was bad. I was a bad daughter. I was a bad mother. I'm a bad human being. I'm a bad wife. I'm a bad person. She said that to me repeatedly growing up, most recently to the point where I just screamed and I said, I'm not going to take this anymore. And I left. And the minute I made that decision, it's like I found my voice and I
Yeah,
said, I'm going to do a podcast. Not necessarily to talk about what I've been through, but to help people who appreciate it, who really appreciate it, and see the value that I can bring. Because I do have a higher purpose that was never allowed to express itself all these years. And now I don't think it's too late. I'm in my mid 50s
no,
and I'm going to speak my truth. And I really don't care who it offends anymore. I'm just so done with that. I'm done. And I'm super selective now of who I let into my circle. Either
absolutely.
you support me for speaking out, or you don't. And I'm not going to have anyone hanging on the fence. Well, I don't know. Well, your mother's got this. Well, you need to be kinder to your mother, and you need to do. I'm no, no. I'm just done because kindness and empathy works both ways
Yeah.
completely. And the people that look at me and say, wow, your mother really needs you after your dad died. Your sister needs you. They need you. Okay, but what about me? I've
What
given
do
my
you need?
entire life to people that have abused me, have shut me down. Literally, they call me stupid in public. I'm done. I'm done with being humiliated on every level. So that's kind of my story and why I'm
Wow.
here. Yeah.
Well, I am learning so much, and there's so much inspiration in your message, what you just shared, and so many things that I want to pull from. I think the most amazing thing, you must have shared it with me. I think the fact that I have the same name as your daughter, no
Uh,
coincidences. Like that,
no.
it's almost like you're repairing things through this conversation. I hope
Yeah,
she watches, and
I'll
I
send it to
mean,
her.
so absolutely amazing. So first thing that I want to touch upon is the one thing that I love that you said. A lot of people think that unmuting means actually speaking up and like showing your rage, and like you're in your own rave party and like, and
Hmm.
it's not. You said something in the beginning that you learning to walk away and not say anything was part of your unmuting process, and that's so powerful that sometimes silence is more powerful than anything, like just
Yeah.
I've had to do that in a couple of relationships in the past couple of years where I just fell off. I didn't say anything. I'm not harboring anything, but just nope, not going to talk
Yeah.
anymore. And that was my
Hmm.
way of unmuting myself, saying, I'm not putting up with this bullshit anymore. I'm not tolerating this in my life anymore. So
Hmm.
I applaud you for that. That's
Um,
incredible. And then the other thing that resonated with me was what you were talking about as a child. So I was always chubby. And I
mhm.
always, like, if I look at pictures of me when I was a little kid, and when we came to America, I was 7. And
Uh-huh.
we stayed in a motel, and it was my first experience having unlimited food. And so you're going from home cooked Indian food back in England
Yeah.
to all of a sudden hotel and pancakes and American food. I got very chubby very quickly.
Right.
And that was right around the time that I was muted for the first time. And I could never get rid of my belly fat. And even now with bodybuilding, I still just have a puffier stomach. And it's like you brought me to that connection, that between
Mhm.
that, because I've
Mhm.
never really thought about that.
Yes,
Wow.
that's been a recent revelation for me, because after my father passed away, I started packing on pounds. And I'm a fairly fit person. I do a lot of yoga. I was doing a lot of yoga after my dad passed away. But that weight, and then I'm looking at that belly fat, and then I had this light bulb moment. And I was eating a lot of the foods that my father liked just to soothe
Mm,
myself. And out of the two parents, he was the one that would actually listen. Not completely, but he would give me my time of day and let me say what I had to say, even though in the end he typically sided with my mom. But growing up, he would go to bat for me. He would fight for me and say, "Hey, I think Karen's making a point. I think we should listen to her. This is how she feels." But when I got married and then leading up to the present moment, a lot of that started to disappear. But when he passed, I was missing my old dad that used to go to
mm-hmm,
bat for me. And the things that we bonded over, like silly things like carrot muffins or a lemon meringue pie or shrimp or whatever. And so I'd make that, and then I'm like sitting there remembering my dad, and the weight's coming on. And then one day I'm looking, going, okay, what's going on here? At least I had a little bit of awareness that, okay, my body is changing. And then I started working out differently. I started adding some weight training, going for walks, doing some HIIT classes, along with my yoga. And then the weight started dropping. But then it dropped to that level where I still had that childhood belly
mm-hmm.
fat that I've never been able to get rid of. And then that light bulb went on that, hey, I'm doing everything right. I'm managing my emotions now. Let's see where this originally came from. And then the more that I journaled about it, I was able to relate it to that. That as a kid, because I was suppressed, that cortisol just goes through the roof. And those stress hormones kick in, even if you're a kid
Yeah,
and you pack it on because you can't speak your truth.
yeah, yeah.
You can't.
You,
And I was
you
body
know,
shamed. I was completely body shamed as a teenager. Completely.
yeah.
Oh, look at her. She's becoming lazy. She doesn't move. And it couldn't be further from the truth. I remember my mother forced me to join the gym at 18. And
Mm.
then she was all over me. Oh, you go to the gym. What are you doing there? You're not losing any weight. Mind you, she was overweight herself. But the body shaming, like she never set the proper example. But it was
Did you
awful.
did you grow up in India at all? Or
No, I grew up
no?
here. My
Okay.
parents came here when I was a baby. So I've
Yeah.
grown up here.
Yeah. That's like another thing that was for my first podcast with my cousin. It's like, and for me, it created such conflict. In the house, I was in India. Like I was in conservative Tamil Nadu, India,
Yes.
and I left my door and then I was in America where people had boyfriends, people had girlfriends, and people were
Mhm.
allowed to go to the mall and it was so, oh, I mean, this is my podcast, so I could say whatever I want. It fucked me up so bad, just that
Yeah.
duality, like, and
Yes.
not knowing where I belong. So when I went off to college, it was
Mhm.
like letting a mouse out of a cage. Like, oh God, I mean, and that's a whole other episode. But I mean,
At least you were allowed to go. I wasn't even allowed. I had to go to college down the street from my house
well, I had to
because,
go 45 minutes away, which is close enough. My brother got to go 7 hours away. So there's the
wow.
thing. Male son got to go
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
away. I had to be close enough to home so that when they said come home, I had to come home.
You had to
And
come up.
I had to come home. But yeah. Oh my gosh. Wow. But did you have that experience too? Like in your home was India and then outside of your home was Canada?
100%.
Could it like Western lifestyle?
100%. Oh
Yeah.
yeah, 100%. I remember being 16 and my mother talking about marrying me off.
Oof.
I'm like, but then you're at school, you're in high school. You got friends that have boyfriends, going to dances, hanging out. If I went to a school dance, I had to be home at 9 o'clock. And my father would wait outside in the car for me. And I'm like, Dad, the dance gets going at 9. And I had to be home at 9, right? So, and then, the friends all had to be vetted. I wasn't allowed to sleep over. I wasn't allowed to go
Yeah.
anywhere. And the friends all had to get mother's approval. Mother never had anything nice to say about any of my friends. None of them.
Holy
Because
cow, yeah.
Because, I guess being raised here with a name like Karen, then you're attracted to everybody. Canada, like the US, is a melting pot. I
Hmm.
want to have a Chinese friend. I want to have a Hungarian friend or whatever. But they never met with mother's approval. I mean, she tolerated them.
Yeah.
I wouldn't even talk about my friends at home because I knew it wouldn't be met positively.
Well, one of the
Right?
things that I've been coming to terms with in the past 2 weeks is
Yeah.
that and I do past life regression and reading Akashic records is like I am a total Latina. Like my soul is from Mexico. Like when I'm around Mexicans or any Latin
Uh-huh.
American, like I go to visit those countries, I feel at home. When I'm around
Yep.
Indians, I'm like, nope. I mean, I am
No.
Indian, but nope. So I know like my soul chose to be born into, and of all the states in India, I mean, there are certain states I think that have more fun and like dance,
Uh-huh.
and they
Uh-huh.
more affectionate with their children. I
Uh-huh.
chose conservative Hindu to be born into, but it's what I chose to come back to my roots. So I announced today that I
Yeah.
think I'm a Mexican. My soul is Mexican, but
I
where's
love that.
where's your family from in India?
We're from Delhi,
Delhi.
so
Okay.
I'm Punjabi.
Yeah. Yeah. And did you
Yeah.
speak Punjabi?
No, I understand it. I don't speak it.
Were you
I can
shamed for
speak
not
it.
speaking it good enough?
My parents, they actually spoke a mixture of Hindi and Punjabi.
Yeah.
I can speak Hindi. I speak a lot of Hindi with my husband because he came to Canada 32 years ago. And as the eldest child, I guess I got more Hindi thrown at me, more Punjabi, more culture than my
Yeah.
sister, who was born here. So I've picked up more than my sister. Like my sister is completely whitewashed, like if I can say that,
You can
completely.
say whatever you want.
But she pretends to be Indian on the surface, doesn't espouse any of those values. And there are good values from our culture. There are
Yeah,
super
absolutely.
amazing values from Eastern cultures. It's just when they're taken the wrong way to control your children, your offspring, and there's zero accountability. And if you want to have a disagreement, you're shamed.
Hmm.
You're shamed, and you're shamed in subtle ways. They can be overt or they can be covert. It can be
Yeah.
that little glance. It can be an off the cuff remark that maybe they don't mean it, but as a child, you internalize it. You
Right.
totally know. The constant criticism, and it's over stupid, completely stupid shit sometimes. I remember before my dad passed, I was helping my mom do her online banking, and I couldn't figure out something. I said, "Let me get my brother-in-law on the phone." And so I was trying to just do a WhatsApp with him, like a video call, just to show him what I was doing. And my mother started picking at my hair. I'm in my mid-50s. It was 9 o'clock at night. I hadn't had dinner. I'd come over to help her. I put her before me, and I'm sitting there trying to get on a video call with my brother-in-law, and she lost it. "Well, your hair doesn't look good. What's he gonna think? You can't do that." And she started touching my hair and fussing it. I'm like, "Mom, I'm trying to get this resolved for you. I really don't care what I look like. He's family. What's the big deal?"
Yeah.
So it was stuff like that. And then my father would defend that. "Well, she's just your mom and she means well." I'm like, "No, that's not meaning well. That's not focusing on the right thing and letting your daughter be an adult and do what she needs to do." I'd realized, and this was a few months before my father passed away, this is totally messed up. Like, this is completely
Yeah.
beyond messed up that she feels the need to control me that way. And then she got so hostile over the fact that I was upset over that, she threw me out because I wasn't listening to get my hair fixed. I thought this is so messed up. And
Yeah.
I knew something was wrong. And I also knew it was beyond repair. And the only way God has given me my voice back, it took my father to pass away,
Mm.
sadly.
Yeah.
sadly. But it's a hard life lesson. It's a hard life lesson. If I could redo my life and rewind it 30, 40 years, I don't know. At least as a teenager, I just didn't have the awareness. Zero
Yeah.
awareness.
And I think for women, we come into awareness around this. I mean, I'm going to be 50 next year, and so it's just this pivotal time of menopause and people telling you that life's over, or at least if you watch TV enough, everything's supposed to go downhill, but they're wrong. Everything is getting better because you're starting to be more woke about stuff, conscious about stuff, and you're just like you have the power and the internal voice to be able to say no to the things you don't want anymore. You're just saying no to bullshit because you don't have time for it. And I
I
feel
honestly,
like,
mhm.
especially, and we're gonna spend some time with you talking about your business, and like I feel like with what I've seen of you in the senior grief circle, you understand. It's like, there's no time to waste. Like there's
There's
none.
zero time. There's
Yeah,
none. And I honestly feel life begins at 50. It
yeah,
begins at 50.
yeah.
Because right up until that time, you're living for other people. You're not living for yourself. You're busy meeting
Exactly.
other people's expectations of you, whether it's your parents, your family, your own kids, even your friends. You're meeting other people's expectations. You
Amen
don't
to
really step
that.
into who you are until you're 50, until you go through menopause. And I went through it during COVID. Like the whole thing just collided, right? COVID
Right?
happened, menopause happened for me all like within that year, 2020. I'm like, what the heck is this? But once you're through it, you realize you've got a whole new you on the other side. And it's super exciting, like
It's super
incredibly.
exciting.
It's super liberating on so many levels that,
Yeah.
hey, I can do whatever the hell I want to do. I'm done with everyone. This is my time.
I met with a friend this morning for coffee, and she's a little over, I think she's about 55 too. And
Uh-huh.
so I mean, we just have these deep conversations every time we get together. And she doesn't have kids either. And I was like, oh my God. And we're just talking about our evolution and just pretty much what you're talking about now, and just this period of our lives where we're setting healthy boundaries and we have the strength to say no. And I was like, the irony is my whole life thought I wanted kids. I had this story that I built up in my head that I've always wanted kids since I was 5. And then I hit this place where I was like, no, I don't want kids anymore. And now I'm in an age where I could have, like, I feel like people should have kids once they're 50, except women are screwed for because you can't have kids at 50. But like, so then you don't end up projecting onto your kids, and you don't end up screwing up your kids. Like if I were to have kids, had kids earlier than this, oh my gosh, those poor things would have had to go through a lot of therapy, but just dealing with what I had unhealed in myself. And now I'm at the perfect place where I'm like, oh, I would be an amazing parent, and I can't have kids. So, yeah,
Well, that's it. That's exactly it. If I could redo my parenting based on what I know now, based on the nudges my daughter was giving me all these years, man, I would redo it in a flash. But
yeah.
you're absolutely right.
Did you have an arranged marriage? I can't remember if you said this in the
Yes,
beginning. Yeah,
yes. And I had to make peace with that.
yeah.
That, I married the person that my parents wanted me to marry, and still nothing was good enough.
Mm.
Nothing. I mean, he's apparently the worst son-in-law that walked the face of the earth. And then I'm like, "But mom, you picked him out, right? You picked him out. I didn't have a say in that." And then they don't like that when you say that. Then they're like, "Well, you could divorce him." And again, it's about having control. It's like, let me make that decision. Free of your influence. I can make
Yeah,
that decision. You got me in this. So I carried a lot of anger about that too for a long time. I haven't had an easy marriage. Making it work. I mean, it's been 31 years. Who knows what the future holds? But
yeah,
I'm living for today and I make peace with it every day. It is what it is.
yeah,
He's not a horrible man. We've made it work. Nobody's perfect out there. And that's the way I look at it.
yeah,
I got to please myself. And the way I do that is by staying true to myself and doing what I want to do. I can do that. I can have a perfectly fulfilling life, even when I'm married, even if I have a daughter that doesn't talk to me, even if my other relationships have fallen apart. I can still make a choice to have a really full life, a life of
Because you've
joy.
come to alignment within yourself.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
It's taken a long time to get here, but I'm
yeah,
here. It's
yeah. And it's a journey. I had
a
something today
journey.
happen that was I've been like sailing, smooth sailing, everything's good, and then something
Yeah,
happened. I
yeah,
saw someone, and I was like, trigger. All right, I got some work to do. um,
yeah.
there's
We always get triggered every day, but I think the most important thing is recognizing that trigger when it happens
yeah.
and then catching it so it doesn't hijack your day. It's like, okay, that's interesting. I learned that about myself today.
Exactly. Oh my gosh, I spent so much time being hijacked by other people's shit. It's just,
Yeah.
yeah, and my own. So it was just big. Won't blame it on other people. It was my own stuff too. Wow. This is such a gift to be able to just have this, like, not have had any previous conversations before
No,
and have it now and just be like, oh my God, this is perfectly aligned.
it
Yeah.
is. And I feel like I could talk to you for hours. I
Yeah.
really do.
I know. Same here. I would like to spend some time because you and I met in an entrepreneurial group,
Mhm.
and you have a business, and I want you to talk more about that business to the group here. And I'll share
Yeah.
this also in the description of the podcast so people can reach out to you.
Hmm. I've managed to find my voice through my business, and I'm helping other people at midlife navigate the shitty thing called grief. When you lose a parent, when you lose a life partner, when you lose a child, which is the absolute most devastating thing anyone can go through. As I was going through my own grief journey with my dad, and I had lost 5 other family members before that, all on my husband's side. So my family was carrying a lot of heavy energy. My husband fell into depression. He lost both of his parents within a year,
Oh my gosh.
exactly to the day during COVID. Blew my mind that that could even happen, but it did. Then he lost a couple uncles. Then a cousin of his lost their husband. Then I lost my dad. Then I lost an uncle about 10 days ago. So as I'm going through all these losses, people around me were also losing people. I had a couple of good friends that lost their partners. They were married 30, 40 years. They lost their loved one. And they were like, okay, what do I do? And I'm like, I don't know. I'm grieving too. Let's figure this out. So a lot of it had to do with the practical things when you lose a partner. One of my really good friends, her husband passed away in March, and she had been married 35 years. He passed away, and she couldn't access any of his accounts because he used facial recognition.
Oh,
So I'm helping her navigate all of this. How do you close bank accounts? How does she access his pension? There were so many things that she didn't know how to do because the passwords were facially protected. She had to produce all kinds of documentation. And then she said to me, Karen, there needs to be a guide for this kind of stuff. So I started thinking, I'm like, yeah, I could help people. I'm helping her anyway. I started helping another friend of mine that I used to work out with at the gym. Beautiful couple, also an Indian couple. Her husband just dropped dead after a workout. She went home to make dinner and he died. And I'm like, and I saw her a couple months later. I said, how's it going? Where's your husband? And she's like, he died. I'm like, what? So I started helping her. So there were a few people that were just sort of finding me. I was finding them. I thought, okay, this is going to kind of give me some more meaning because I really didn't know what to do.
yeah.
When all these people were dropping dead around me, I got recertified as a health coach, but that wasn't really going anywhere. And I was kind of stuck. It was almost like I had to go through these losses to figure out what my calling was. And then when my dad died, and I had my final blowout with my mother and my sister, I'm like, okay, now what? And then these people started finding me for help. And then my one friend with the password dilemma, she said to me, "You're a writer. You can write a book. I mean, yeah, you'd be really good at this. You could help people just like me." And she's 62. I thought about it. I thought she makes sense and she's given me good advice. I've known her for a long time. She knows me. And it started to grow on me. And then I joined the course. I actually went to Mexico for a couple of months and made the decision there, talking with our coaching team. Got on the phone from Mexico and I said, "I'm in. This is my business idea."
Yeah.
I actually built my website sitting in Mexico because I was fired up. Got all the content loaded. I'm like, I gotta run with this.
Yeah.
So my website, it's called theseniorsgriefcircle.com. And it's to help anyone at midlife dealing with a really profound loss, both not just from an emotional standpoint, but a practical standpoint.
Yeah.
If you have a small family, how the heck do you even organize a funeral? Like those things are so basic. What do you do if there's no will? What do you do if you don't get along with your siblings and one of them wants to contest the will? Like, I want to have these kinds of
Yeah.
conversations on my podcast because people are just flying by the seat of their pants. You're highly emotional. Emotions are highly charged.
Yeah.
No one is thinking straight. At least in my family, that was the experience. Families that have their shit together and they come together during grief, that's a beautiful thing. But I've seen so many families just completely fall apart.
Yeah.
They just fall apart on
Yeah.
so many levels. And people are carrying all that pain inside of them. So I want to have these conversations just so that people can resonate with them. And if they need any practical or emotional help, I want to be able to refer them because I've always been a connector. I connect people to
Yeah.
whatever they need. Working with older adults, I've done that for 15 years. I just connect people. But I do have a background in family counseling too. So I think it's really the best of both. And I'm really excited. I really am.
Yeah, you can see it, and you can see it in your smile. You're beaming talking about it. Tell me more about your background in family counseling. Would you do therapy for therapy sessions or before, or what did you do?
Again, I work more on the program management side. I set up counseling programs for older adults,
Got it.
dealing with abuse and vulnerable populations, setting up community programs. That was what I did, but I did have therapists working with me and connected to what I was doing. And it
Amazing.
was beautiful being able to reach people. I always say I'm a practical therapist, I'm a practical psychologist. And I would say that to people that would come and see me at events. "Well, you're the lady behind this." I'd be like, "Yeah." And I'd be like, "Well, I want to talk to you." I'm like, "Okay, if it's not too technical, I can help you." I'm always careful about dispensing advice just because I'm not a licensed therapist. And I tell
Yeah.
people that up front. I'm here to help you move forward. I'm here to connect you. If you need to work on your past and what's happened, there's a place for that. And that absolutely has to be done. And I'm happy to refer people.
Wow, you offer something that is so needed by so many people, and I hope people can reach out to you by listening to this because I think a lot of times when people hear and just in my circle, when you hear the word grief, people can automatically connect it to counseling and that it's counseling and just the loss, and that's it. But you just kind of clarified what's all entailed if you do lose somebody, just even not forget the emotions, forget all the practical stuff. And I think it's amazing that you're there to support people. Uh, what do you currently have that you're offering people?
I'm offering one on one coaching, and I hope to be able to
Amazing.
offer group coaching. And then I'm just here. I just want to be able to help people. I'm trying to get a private Facebook group going. That's free. So if anyone's looking for some free help, I know money is a big issue right now for people.
Yeah.
You can join my Facebook group. I can have one-on-one chats with you and help direct you. And I'm also looking at building a team. So I do have a few people within the Toronto area that want to join me as
Yeah.
psychotherapists. And I'm super excited about that
Yeah,
because
yeah.
I need them.
I had a couple of people that, I think they're just moving through it, but what told them about you just because of that loss that they were experiencing and all the different layers and levels of what they were experiencing with that loss and navigating
Mm-hmm.
it. You're just a powerful and amazing resource to have. Um, and yeah, I mean, and loss is loss in any form. So it's just
Yeah.
having that
It
support.
changes your life. Yeah. It changes your life forever. But the key is what do you do with that loss? Maybe it's nothing right now, which is all good. But at some point, you do have to realize that, hey, your life has been changed forever. Now, what are you going to do? And
Yeah,
I say that because that's one of the things my father used to say to me. Whenever I would go to him with a problem, he would say, okay. And he would just listen. And he would say, so what are you going to do? He used to say that to me. I'd be like, well, Dad, I could do this or I could do that and I could do that. And then he would come back to that. So what do you think you should do? Until I would work that out myself. So I'm kind
wow.
of taking that as my little mantra in helping people that you've got this radically different life now, a new reality. It's painful. Let's work through the pain. And my signature coaching program, it's called Make Peace. So the peace is taking a pause. E is for releasing your emotions. The A is coming to acceptance. The C is caring for yourself. And the E is embracing change. So, hence that question, what are you going to do now?
Wow.
And so I'm taking that forward with people that I'm helping right now. And it seems to be resonating fairly well.
I might
I mean,
start using that.
I love it. And
Yeah,
even the psychotherapists that I'm working with, they're like, that's really brilliant. Oh
yeah,
yeah, considering I don't have a degree, a formal degree in psychotherapy. They're like, that really works. I said, it does because I'm living it. It works. Really
thank you to
does.
your
Of
dad
course,
for that.
absolutely. And then, it's everyone's timeline is different. Some people
Yeah,
take longer than others. You could take 10 years, you could take a quarter of a century trying to make peace with it. But the choice is yours.
yeah.
Right? What are you gonna do?
What are you going to do?
What are you
I
gonna
like
do?
that question because with the work that I do, it's like
Uh-huh.
one of the first steps is getting people out of the spiral because you can just
Yep.
keep telling the same story, saying the same thing, go to bed
Hmm.
with those same thoughts, and you're recycling.
Yep.
And you need something that's going to kick you out of there and start creating a
Yep.
new neural pattern. I feel like that question, what are you going to do now, kicks you out of there.
Yeah.
Um, yeah,
That's it.
that's,
I had heard a mind blowing stat that 90% of the thoughts that we have every day are the same ones.
yeah,
I don't know who
I
said
can
that.
attest to that
Yeah.
from,
We have the same stupid thoughts every day over and over and over.
mhm,
Oh, well, she said that to me and he did that to me and that happened and why did that happen? And I should have done this. It's the same loop every
yeah,
single day.
yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. So I will definitely, get your links and put it into this description so that people can reach out to you and because you are genuine when you say I want to help, and even with the friend that I was talking about, you were like, I want to help your friend. You are genuine that you have something special to offer the world, and I appreciate that you have unmuted to start offering this to the world, and I still am blown away that I'm having this conversation with you. And we've been in a private chat group. Well, we've been in the same group since January. And this is
Yeah.
the first time
Yeah.
that
Exactly.
that we're like really connecting on this level. Um,
Hmm.
so yeah, you're amazing.
My
What
gosh.
I mean, I feel like that, like, what are you going to do now is a great way to end this. But just last minute thoughts. What do you have to say to anybody who's watching this about unmuting and their individual journey around that for themselves?
If you know something is not right, You're feeling like you've been invalidated, you've been dismissed, you're not happy, and you know that something isn't sitting right with you. Get still with yourself. Find your voice. It can be found, but don't force it. It's going to happen when you show yourself a little bit of compassion, a little bit of kindness, because it's there. It's there. You have everything you need to
Yeah.
unmute within you. You really do. For years, I used to force myself. Why is my voice like this? Why isn't anyone paying attention to me? And I would force it. When I backed off and I let go of what clearly wasn't working in my life, I found my voice. So
Yeah.
figure out what's not working in your life. What's your setup? Who's in your circle? Who's muting you? Figure it out.
Yeah.
Who's muting you and get rid of them, as painful as it might be.
Yeah.
Because on the other side of that pain is freedom, which is priceless.
And then you just make amazing connections with people on the
Yeah. And
wherever,
you live
all over the
your
world.
life.
Yeah.
Yeah. You live your life that you were meant to live.
Ah, what a way to end. Thank you so much for coming on today. I appreciate you
Oh,
so much, and I can't wait to connect with you even more. And I'm
my.
going to be having everybody who's come on for these initial episodes come back again and just really share their journey because that's what this is all about.
Priya, I really appreciate so much that you're doing to activate that consciousness in people. That you really can unmute yourself. You're really doing God's work. You are.
Ah,
Thank you. Thank you so much
thank
for the opportunity.
you. Thank you as well.